What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Kyloe Un'Moo'ted for February 2023. Kyloe Un'Moo'ted is the show where we talk about anything that has to do with the staffing industry, including HR tech or staffing predictions for 2023 in the workforce. So that's what we're doing today for February. With me, I have my esteemed boss, Mr. Raymond Pennie. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you very much.
He is the CEO and founder of Kyloe. And we have Raymond's one of oldest work friends, but also a board member of Kyloe and a partner at Korn Ferry Advanced, Mr. Waseem Razzaq. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yep. And so we did our prep call, and everyone on the call assumed that I knew Waseem. So about 25 minutes in, when we did it, I was like, "Hey, Waseem, nice to meet you." I was very, very funny because it's 25. I was late, so it was 25 minutes in. But anyway, so guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of walk through some predictions. As you could tell, Raymond lives and works in the opposite side of the pond as Waseem and I. Waseem is in Florida with me, but you hail from the other side of the pond, right? Where are you from?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So I've been there about 10 years now.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, welcome, and I'm sorry, not the best 10 years to be in the U.S. Anyway, so guys, we're going to start with the current state of the economy and kind of just walk through, the Fed had an interest rate hike. The equivalent on the UK side had an interest rate, a small one, but interest rate hike. So, Waseem, I'm going to throw it to you and just kind of walk us through what you think for the economy, 2023 moving forward. We're a month in, so it's a great time to talk about it again.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. And I think it's a very careful balance the Feds have to play because they're trying to make sure the economy doesn't slow down too much. So they have to thread the needle really carefully, right? So they have to control interest rates without getting to a point where they've slowed it down too much and you get into a recession. So it's always really tricky for them to do that. At the same time, there is some, there are some bubbles that we've had for quite a while, right? I mean, a lot of these startups have been there for a while. There's been a lot of money, especially through the pandemic. I think a lot of money was invested in these organizations. And at some point, these bubbles have to burst right now, whether they have to burst in dramatic style and in a huge recession, or whether they can just be kind of tamed as they go through. I think it's important that we do something like that.
There was a chart.
The other thing I want to say is, China, I think, is also going to play a big role in what's happening with the economy. I think now that it's opening up again, because we've had this kind of slowdown for quite a while where they've not really been able to play in that market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I was saying I saw a chart on like Instagram or Twitter where they were talking about like these unicorns, these tech giants who are now like deflating, post pandemic, and I think it was revenue and growth, like internal growth. So it was interesting. Mr. Pennie. Oh, sorry, Waseem, go ahead.
Even companies have been around for quite a while. Think about Uber. It still doesn't make money, right?
Still not profitable. I mean, Netflix took 20 years to be profitable, to your point, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the VCs and the private equity firms have been really willing to invest to encourage growth to be really quick and grow really quick, and profit will come. And at this point, they're maybe realizing that profit would be quite good and maybe don't grow quite so quick. So we're maybe just seeing a minor reset, which maybe brings us on to just the tech layoffs. There was a while earlier in January where every day you woke up to another company you'd heard of laying off 5%, 6%, 10,000, 12,000 of their employees, and that was really an interesting start to the year, which I don't know if we saw coming, but maybe as people were doing the results for the December year that's just gone, they were looking at their cost base for the year go forward, and they were taking preventative measures by unfortunately laying off people.
Yeah, I think
there's also some, maybe one or two stories of how people were let go that maybe are a bit of a surprise when you go to the door and you press your badge and you don't get in and you're routed to the left to go see HR, and if it goes green you get to walk in, which maybe there's a few learnings there for people.
Not the best way to lay people off. Or apparently like a mother was like holding her baby that was just born and they were laid off. Yeah, there's some horror stories. There's 8 guys on H-1B visas who worked at Google for, I think that was the story I read, like for 10 years, him and his wife, and now he's on a 60-day clock to find work. So there's plenty of talent with great experience. So for the industry. Yeah, and I think we talked about overhiring, trying to gobble up talent.
It must be tough for them, though, right? Because what we found was during the pandemic, it was really hard to find talent, right? So I'm sure a lot of these organizations really struggle to get the balance between, hey, I need to make layoffs, but I also know that if I let these people go, trying to rehire them is going to be really hard, because even now that's the case, right? I mean, in certain industries, it's not balanced across all, right? I mean, not everybody's laying people off. There's hiring and laying up at the same time, right? The service industry still is struggling to get all the people that it needs because it lost so much, I think, during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the things these companies did was stock up on employees. And they went ahead of maybe where they needed to be for fear that they weren't going to get any others. And the layoffs have loosened the sector, and now people are maybe willing to look for another job, or willing to look for a job in a business that's a different profile than one of the really big guys.
Well, I mean, this is just like complete hypothesis, but like also if you gobble up really good talent, they maybe have less chance of disrupting you when they're bored sitting at home.
Yeah, so, true.
It's definitely there's lots of different reasons why it possibly happened, but they definitely did overstock and their teams, and now unfortunately people are still humans as much as they are talent, right? All right, so staffing industry, Waseem, right? We were talking about there's still people hiring, right? We had I think it is jobs Tuesday or Thursday, so the job report comes out today. And by the way, shout out to Joni Biley and her podcast. She'll be on Fox Business talking about the jobs report, and she is the president of Remedy, which is a very large commercial staffing company but she lives down here in South Florida. But yeah, people are still hiring. Staffing industry is still, being basically order takers, right? They're not having to sell yet, but I think that might change soon. So what are you guys seeing, Waseem, on your end?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there are still definitely pockets of areas where they're hiring. There'll probably be more of a shift to contractors. Generally, what we've seen in a recession, as the economy slows down, people stop hiring permanent people, but they then backfill them with contractors, right? So I think we expect to see probably more contractors this year than the permanent hire. That number will go down over a period of time if it's not already going down. Some jobs, I mean, some people I think will still find jobs. If you think about when Google lays people off, other people are going to hire those people, right? So I don't think so. There's definitely work for the staffing industry to, move people from one industry to another industry. I don't see those people becoming long-term unemployed. Like that's not what's happening here. This isn't a repeat of 2008, when we had mass layoffs and then people were out of work for a long period of time. I expect these to get back into work fairly quickly.
They said automotive is looking at it too. It's looking strong at all those tech workers, which is cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that it's getting broader than just tech. Like we started out with tech, we are seeing other industries as well, and that will just create opportunities, I think, for staffing. I mean, obviously, that you sometimes see on the permanent side of staffing, yes, we'll see a slowdown, but on the contracting, I expect it to be, a continuous increase for a period of time.
Which is a great reason to have both sides of the business. If you don't,
yeah,
I think there's also going to be recruiters are going to have to work harder on both sides as well. So that candidates are going to be, if they're in a good solid job in a company they like, they may not want to put their head above the parapet and start looking. And equally, recruiters are going to have to make sure that they really find a good fit, because the clients are going to be, hey, I need to be really convinced that this is the right person for me. So those influencing skills and making sure they're able to find and influence both sides of the recruitment puzzle, I think is going to be very, very important.
It's funny though, isn't it? I mean, it was only a little while ago the whole Great Resignation was happening. Do you remember that? That was like the big theme. And, now you don't hear about that at all, right?
There's so much just again, more layoffs, right? And the way that they handled, not everyone, but the way these layoffs have been handled, it's not going to cause corporate trust to increase. Like if there's probably a barometer somewhere of corporate trust, and it definitely got closer to midnight on the doomsday clock because of the way that these layoffs were handled. So I think the Great Resignation is not really about it's more about trust and people wanting to do their own thing, right?
Mm.
I mean, there's probably a number of people who are not looking for jobs, but I do think that's not going to change. And I mean, this might even cause more people to start their own thing, which is good for competition and the economy in general. But yeah, I think for me, that's all about trust, right? Corporate trust. So.
And then we had the quiet resignation, where people were doing the job that they were paid for. And maybe they're the people that may have been casualties in some of these layoffs, because I think you've always got to be striving to learn, to personally develop, to show and take on new things. And that's just a good way of personal growth as well as corporate growth, as well as just enjoying your work.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. Which, you got kind of, those people were getting fired too, right? So all these TikTok trends. I would say shout out to all the teachers out there who get voluntold to do things all over the world and don't get compensated very well for it. So yeah, I did that for 7 years. Then I decided to start making money.
We've teacher strikes. Yeah, we've teacher strikes going on just now, and I think it's an area that's got great opportunities for efficiency, because there's lots of paperwork and lots of things that need to be done once, twice, 3 times, and then I think it's a great place for people to either take on automation in the form filling areas of their job and make things more interactive.
Yeah, or just pay them better.
Well, I think everyone, if everyone was willing to pay more tax, then everyone would be in public sector would be able to get paid more.
That's fair, but there's also we pay a tax for entertainment way more than we pay a tax to the government. So maybe it's how we choose to spend money. So anyway, Ray, how much does that football match cost that we went to? I said football, so that could be both sides of the pond. By the way, Raymond, I got you.
Good touch.
Yeah. And Wrexham AFC was the #1 watched football match across the U.S. on ESPN Plus and all platforms. By the way, so shout out to Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney for making it Welsh football important to the Americans.
And they made it entertaining by making it 3-3, and they get a replay so that they get to do it all over again.
Whoever wins gets Tottenham, right? So that's going to be fun for them.
Yeah.
Nothing like running into Harry Kane at the end of a rough match.
Yeah.
And I did not. By the way, I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. But
you didn't follow your own instructions.
Someone is buzzing me. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can roll.
It was actually my watch. It was my watch, not my phone. My phone didn't make a sound. All right, keep moving here. All right, so we wanted to talk about mergers and acquisitions in the staffing and just in general, and maybe in the staffing industry. So Raymond, I think this is one of your great passions, so I'll let you kick off.
I think we're lucky enough to get involved in the migration process when someone is either acquired or chooses to dispose of part of the business, and we see lots of activity in that area. Businesses are positioning themselves to have a broad portfolio of different recruitment types, and the people who are doing that are looking for businesses that maybe their owners decided they want to be part of something bigger, or maybe the owners decided, hey, this is a good time to check out, and we're seeing them being bought and sold across the business. Some big deals in the UK and a number of big deals happening in the US too.
Yeah, Korn Ferry actually acquired one of my favorite staffing companies recently, so good work with Waseem or whoever was responsible. Kyloe is an incredible company. So
yeah, it was great. And I think generally around this time, we find when the economy slows down, it's actually a good opportunity for acquisition. We've seen that previously as well. In fact, both Raymond and I used to belong to Spring, which got acquired by Adecco. Same sort of thing, right? It was during the time that the economy was slowing down, Adecco came and ended up purchasing Spring. So we've seen this happen a few times and actually have experienced it ourselves during that period.
Yeah, it's just it's the right time to do it, and people are looking for different ways to be mobile and grow or get into the other side of the business, right? Like if you've only been executive or search and you want to get into staffing, it's definitely a good time to do that, and you have great opportunity to work with businesses that might be great but small and need bigger reach, or whatever it is. So.
And everybody wants to be able to tick the box to say they've got a healthcare part to their business, or something that's
Yes.
connected to those
Right.
parts of the industry sectors that are going to continue to grow because of the demographics of all of us getting older all the time.
Should you say
And
recession proof?
yes, recession proof maybe is the words, but they're on the macro backdrop to being involved in healthcare staffing is going to run and run. And we see some great businesses out there that have grown amazingly well, and other businesses who maybe missed it. At last year's SIA, when we're down in Austin, everyone wanted to be a healthcare staffing business, and those businesses have continued to grow. So there are different sectors that are much stronger, and have an inherent thing. Plus, it's good for us to make sure that there's good quality healthcare and social care people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'm going to go back to you again, Raymond, for this one.
Okay.
Because besides for NFTs, AI and ChatGPT are probably your second favorite thing. How do you see it affecting the way things are being done, and maybe directly how it affects the staffing and recruiting industry?
Well, I guess as we came into December, no one had heard of OpenAI, or very few people had heard of OpenAI. The word ChatGPT or GPT-3 wasn't really something that people had come across. Now, if you haven't heard of it and you haven't tried it, where have you been? What have you been
Living
doing?
under a rock.
Yeah.
Like an impressive one, by the way.
And I think as we record this on the 2nd of February, I saw that Microsoft came out today, say they're going to embed OpenGPT or ChatGPT into Teams in order to deal with agendas and take notes, as well as identify the actions. So that's going to come to everybody on a premium license for $20 come July 2023. So it's going to make differences make a difference in really easy areas, and I think it's not long before I saw an Australian press release that said that someone in Australia had created the first job ad being product that was creating job ads on the basis of a job description through ChatGPT, which good on them. I tried it. It took 5 minutes and it looked like it worked. So I imagine that's going to be making the writing of job ads that get distributed out onto the job boards much better.
I have something to say about that. I think I said it last time too, is if you are basing job ads that were not tailored towards attracting women or DE&I initiatives,
totally.
You may not want your AI is a learning tool. It learns on the old stuff that's already out there. So if you're learning on old stuff that wasn't DE&I and women, like attracting women friendly, the stuff that's going to get ran is not going to do the same. So just make sure that you're putting it through another filter to make sure that you are attracting, to your initiatives. Anyway, Waseem, any thoughts on?
It's a good point. I think it's more than just job ads. I think you're right. It's a really good starting point. But if you think about all the things that it can do, and all the times you can save a recruiter in terms of, when it's sending out the cover letter, when it replying to, accepting roles, rejecting roles. There's so many other areas as well that I think it can help with. A lot of this, the real beauty of the generative element of it is it's creating content, right? So that's another piece. There's kind of pros and cons, I think. I think the pros are it can generate content really quickly in ways that we probably, kind of to Raymond's point, we didn't even imagine that systems could do this before December, right? But the cons of it are, how accurate is it? We've talked about it does some stuff, but we don't know that it's super accurate in terms of generating content. The other thing, though, it may end up taking things like, I don't know, thought leadership, right? Which is a whole field, an area that lots of companies are invested in, including LinkedIn and everything. Does that just become a commodity now? Can anybody just go in and generate thought leadership by using ChatGPT? Is that going to, change the world as well? So I think there's a lot of ways it can be used, both good and some kind of questionable in the way that it works.
Well, that's so funny you said that, right? Like, Raymond, it might be good to create a way to check resumes if they've been generated by ChatGPT
on its way
before they hit the ATS, right? or the CRM. And then, I think, yes, to your point, Waseem, anyone can create better content. Artists are obviously already filing class action lawsuits against AI companies because of, go create a art picture of this in the style of Banksy, and they trained it on that artist's work, which is their, property essentially in their style. So it's gonna be fun to look at how this all gets sorted out. I think it's overall good, but yeah, it's definitely gonna, just like anything, like Web3 right now, it needs to get sorted out to a working form that's helping.
Well, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, it is plagiarism. I mean, because that's what it's a system, right? So it's kind of, it doesn't have original thought in the same way as humans have original thought. So and that's actually one of the big fears of all the universities, where they're concerned that people are just plagiarizing or using it to do that. So I think they probably have some filters in place where they can check. I know somebody was saying yesterday that there's already a way you can check if it was generated by ChatGPT. So
yeah,
that may be the way to go.
That's good though. If they built that with it, that's great. Like, hey, we understand that this can be a tool for good or a tool for evil. So we gave you to generate and to check. That would be a great thing.
I ran a test as if I was a recruiter, and I ran a test and said I found a job description, and I asked it to generate me a CV that would be a good CV for that job, which it duly did. I then flipped it and said, hey, could you write me a job ad for this job description, which the first instance was quite long, so I asked it to shorten it and asked it to make it more diversified or more able to deal with diversity, which it had a go at. And then you get say, and if I'm interviewing this person, can you come up with 5 interview questions that I should ask this person about their details? And sure enough, it came up with 5. And then the last thing I did was I asked it to review a contract to see which areas of the contract I should consider in looking at further, so that I could say which are fair for me and which are fair for the other side. And it had a good go, all of which I was surprised at. And then I was listening to the ARK Invest investors call overnight, and what they said was that they anticipate that the cost of generating the databases behind the AI, so training the AI, will reduce in line with Moore's law. So they're thinking it's about a 75% reduction in the cost of generating the AI behind the scenes for it to learn, and that's going to keep going. So in 1 year, it's going to be 75% quicker, and another year is going to be, I don't know what 75 times 75 is quicker, but it's just going to keep going. So it's here now. Go play.
Yeah.
Particularly from a jobs perspective, I mean, I think there's 2 sides to it. So one is there's got to be some jobs out there that it can replace genuinely, especially if it's doing generative, because up until now we haven't had that capability, right? So there'll be some roles that it can, there will certainly support some roles, not necessarily replace them completely, but make them way more efficient, which could lead to some job replacement. But on the other side, there's all the new jobs that are going to get created, right? Like the ones we just described, and all the stuff you just talked about there, Raymond, right? But somebody creates a job that creates a process that does all of that in one go. So there's hopefully a lot of new interesting jobs that are going to come out of this that we just haven't seen before.
Yeah, I wrote down AI pilot as a job, like someone who can pilot the AI for you.
Yeah.
But we're hooking up to the ChatGPT APIs to see what we can pass and what we can get back on the premium level, and it's going to be an interesting journey. Even if nothing comes of it, we have to stay on top of changes.
Yeah. And I think we'll wrap this one up real quick, and then we have one more before we jump, which we got to do shortly here. Sergey Brin, founder of Google, actually requested access to code for the first time in like a decade, because he's worried about AI. So the founders of Google are getting back involved, because they, like, it was this week, he had a request, like he filed a request for access to code at Google to start with the intent of working on the AI. So
yeah,
super cool. All right, Darren, we got something. So Darren, let me put Darren's message up here actually, because I can do that. There we go. Check it out. It is definitely the future, but it will be how it's used 100%. I believe AI will replace these ones. Replace those that aren't. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. That's what we just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to give you an advantage. Those who use it and use it well will give you an advantage. GitHub has had GitHub Copilot for writing code for a while, and it's just a pair programmer that's with you to write some of the easier code that you can then embed into your code. It's not meant as a replacement, but it augments and allows you to maybe do 20 or 30% more code in the same given time.
Yeah, no, just efficiency, right? Amplifying. So, Darren, thank you, and 100% agree with you. All right. Last thing, Waseem, what has changed forever since the pandemic? And we'll wrap it up here. Got about 4 minutes left, guys.
Yeah. So I think one thing that pandemic's really done is obviously working from home. What we're doing here. I mean, this is a very common and the norm. I think that's going to happen. I think there are definitely companies still want people to get together, right? There's a need to have people socializing together, and I think they're struggling. Some companies are really struggling to get people to come into the offices. So one thing that's definitely changed is working from home. I think another driver for that is actually cost. Travel costs I think has gone down. I'm not sure that there's an appetite now to go back to the old days of spending money traveling far for a 1.5 hour meeting and coming back and stuff like that. I think that element has kind of also changed. But I also think there is going to be more spaces where they want to get people together so they can socialize and still meet with their team members. I talked to some of my colleagues who said they go to the office, there's nobody there, but they still go to socialize on particular days. So there's certain days where they've kind of nominated as, hey, come in on a Thursday, we'll buy your lunch or buy your dinner, whatever else, and kind of incentives for them to go into work, to do that. I was looking up earlier on, apparently 30% of the US workforce can theoretically work from home. So that's higher than I thought, actually. I always thought it was much lower than that. But there are clearly, certain industries like the service industry, for example, or any kind of plant or manufacturing that can't. But there's still a lot of people that potentially could. So I don't see us ever going completely back where everyone's back in an office in the way they were before.
Yeah. I think that I'm about to come and join the sunshine with you guys. So on my way to Florida, and one of the things that's been interesting is the importance of having a reason to meet. And I think whilst maybe conferences went online and everybody attended as many conferences as they did on Zoom, and maybe they worked initially and then they stopped, but they're now going to become meeting places. They're going to be places where people go to have a conversation that they maybe were able to have in their office previously. They're going to be able to do it at a conference where they can learn something new, they can meet some new people, and they can socialize. And I think they're going to be more important maybe than they were before.
Yeah, definitely. I think I go to a co-working space to interact with humans since I moved to a house in the suburbs. So I used to live in an apartment building. I would run into people that I knew or I just see all the time. But like human interaction in its barest form is definitely needed to keep us sane. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally on board with trying to figure out how to make it meaningful, right? To bring it back to Salo.
The other part, add to that, sorry, Rob, is there's the burnout, right? I mean, when people work from home, long hours, right? There are days, honestly, where you have 10 meetings, 15 meetings in that day that are 30 minutes. If there is more of that, so that's one of the reasons why you probably do need to do something like go to a shared workspace, just to kind of give you a break from being on your own and just having constant meeting after one after the other.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is you don't like meetings.
Yeah. We use a co-working space, and the people that we meet do really diverse things, and getting to speak to people about work in an area that's completely different for you just brings new ideas and a little freshness. So I think it's going to be overall good.
Which is what people want, which is why the business owners want people in the office so they can have those ideas, right? But we got to. I think everyone's probably got to work out how it's going to work best for your culture and your organization. So, all right, well, guys, if you have any questions, shoot them to us. We are happy to answer them. Raymond, I will see you in 7 days in sunny Florida. Waseem, I'll probably see you at Exec Forum in about a month, I'm assuming. And thank you both so much. And guys, thank you for tuning in and for your questions. Darren, thank you for that. And that is Kyloe Un'Moo'Ted. Bye, guys.